And hello, 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 you amazing friends. This is your pal Edward, and we're with our great friend Sabina today. Sabina, looking good and fine. How you doing today, Sabina?
I'm great, Edward. Thank you. How are you?
So good to have you with us. And for all our fans around the world, thank you for watching. The roles actually get reversed today. Sabina's actually interviewing me. We're just using our legendary platform to get it out there. So if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Elon Musk's X, great to have you with us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Sabina now, and Sabina's going to run the show. Sabina, are you ready for me to hand over control to you?
Yeah, I am.
Control is now yours, Sabina.
Control is mine. I love it. I like control. So this is exciting. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, actually. Since I first met you and you told me your story, I just and now I'm actually confident enough to do it with you because I've wanted to talk to you about your story and what you've been through for ages. So April is stress month. Or stress awareness month. So who better to kick off than the legendary celebrity LinkedIn extraordinaire? So stress is really so you're happy to talk about stress and all that kind of good stuff, Edward?
Yeah, look, I'm not proud of it. I'm a bit ashamed about a few things, but the thing that I've learned is every time I talk about it, I have a stack of people message me afterwards saying thank you. It really helped me. So despite how uncomfortable or squeamish it makes me, it's something that needs to be talked about more. And you said this to me the other day, and just thanks for all your support too, Sabina. I don't think we talk about it enough. I think it's very much, it's a taboo, it's shameful. We don't like to talk about it, and I think that's wrong. I think the more we talk about it is the more that we collectively help people and create public change.
Absolutely. And I think from a business point of view, people that are have their own businesses or are in sort of like high in leadership roles, I think, there's some startling statistics around stress, but also is just the actual fact of what it does to your biochemistry, your physiology and your psychology. So, when you're stressed, your vagal nerve, which is the wandering nerve, which basically controls much of what you do automatically, it shuts off. And that means that the most important things that, such as, digestion, thinking power, those things turn off. And when someone is paid to do a job, they struggle if they've got stress. They struggle. So helping support them with stress is something that's really important. So thank you. Okay. So just some of the things that stress causes on a physiological and biochemical is poor decision making, brain fog, sleep disorders, infertility, hormone issues.
Is this a checklist? But so far, I'm getting a high distinction on your checklist.
Well, you're not there, but even things like digestion, like a lot of people gain weight, and it's not because of necessarily just because they overeat. Obviously that can cause overeating, but also is it actually slows your digestive system down. So like I said, it stops your relax and digest because your body's like stressed. It's trying to run away from something.
And just jumping in there, that's so as you know, and again, I'm not proud of this, but we're going to talk about it. So I put on like 20, 30 kilos over the past few years, right?
You look great.
And yeah, and I've been working really hard to lose it. So a lot of people who've known me for a while say, Ed, you're starting to look great again. Thank you. I'm sort of deleting my sort of chubby years, right? But what happened to me, it was just purely stress. It was stress of business, stress of life, stress of being a new dad. I really piled on the weight over a few years. Right now, it's great. Now I'm really, fasting and getting it all off for good, thanks to your help as well. But yeah, it was just all that high stress for those years. You're right. It's just when you get stressed, you just pile on the weight, and it's just not a good thing. You're spot on there, Sabina.
So the goal of this series, and this is why I'm so excited to kick off with you, is just for somebody, like you said before, is somebody just sort of like recognizes some of the things that you're going through or have been through. So if we can start with your incredible story, where did it all begin, and what was going on in your life, and yeah, you just tell us how stress is featured in your life.
Yeah, so what happened was where sort of stress, especially to do with food and health, sort of kicked into my early life was when I was quite younger. Family breakdown, wound up in the in the foster system, as you do, right? Family breakdown, and this is where, and I had a good chat. I know we've had a great chat with this off camera. This is where my eating problems, you would have sort of began earlier in life, because what would happen is that when I was like in that sort of quite a few years living in different places, going to different schools, not having stable accommodation, like staying in a lot of like community houses and that, food was very sporadic. You either had everything or nothing, right?
Wow.
And what was actually encouraged would be, so let's say hypothetically you're staying at a community home, and this actually happened, staying in a community home and you're just living on the basics, and all of a sudden they get in a great shipment of pastries, right? Which happen a lot, right? Hi, kiddies, we've got a great shipment of pastries in. You better load up. We don't know when the next one's coming, right? So you have that very much, just getting through the day is that very much food and famine. So they'd say, look, we've got a bunch of pastries, for example, coming in. Such and such has donated them, or whatever the case is. Eat as much as you want and fill up your backpacks. We don't know when we're getting the next shipment in. So you'd have this. And it's funny, I've spoken to a few other people who have been in the system as well. They all say the same thing. You have this very lumpy, oh my God, we've got this cool stuff in. Load up. We don't know when it's happening. And so you would actually binge, but in a normal, just getting through day, it's like, oh, wow, I've got these cool cakes in. You don't know when you're getting this back again. So let's load up and enjoy, right? And
Wow.
yeah, you don't know, or you get a shipment of a nice bread. You never know what's going to get in, because a week or two could go by and nothing really comes in, right? So, and you don't know that. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that was originally where I suppose my early binging behavior was created, right? And that became a ticking time bomb for me later in life, which is the reason probably talked about. But that was originally where it all kicked in. So food was always a form, for me and a lot of people, me especially, food was always a form of medication from stress, like feeling stress, comfort eating, right? Comfort eating was always the thing, right? And that was all fine till my mid-30s. But once I sort of turned 40, I just went pop. And that's when it became a real problem, mid-40s. Early mid-40s is when I just exploded, and I had to work really hard on coming back. So there you go.
What do you think? What was the when you say in your mid-40s? Can I ask what was the impetus then? What do you think was the trigger for?
Yeah, I think there were several things. COVID was a huge part of it, but it wasn't all of it. I think I like to blame it on lockdowns to protect my own ego. Because the thing was, I was already sliding anyway. So I think it was just like sort of fatherhood, long hours, a lot of stress, but also not looking after my health. So because the thing is, it wasn't like I didn't know I knew what I was doing was wrong. It's just bad habits sort of kicked in. As you said to me before, it's just the bad habits became. So for example, I'd eat dinner at 9 o'clock at night, massive servings, 9 o'clock at night. And I tell you what, if you're trying to get fat, having massive servings of food at 9 o'clock at night,
yeah.
That's like if Sabina's checklist on how to get fat, eat large servings 9 o'clock at night would be the one that you put on top of your checklist. So I was doing basically take the list on how to eat healthy, flip it upside down. That's what I was doing. And it's just a really bad, and again, I don't like it. And I'm not rationalizing this, because at the end of the day, I was wrong, and I'm aware of it. A lot of other people did the same thing as well. It wasn't just me sort of doing that. A lot of people like myself did the same thing. And some years later, I sort of look back and I look back and saying, man, how did I get there? But I think if I think about it, it was just unchecked stress. It was just working long hours, just years and years of all that coming together. And I think that sort of set the bed for all these problems to kick in.
I know for me, I've had my own history with binge eating as well, but it used to give me like a little bit of, it was only very short lived, but a bit of pleasure, right? It was like, how did you feel when you were sort of like, you was having a stressful day, for example, and then, and then 9 o'clock comes or whatever.
It's like,
you can just sit down. How did that?
Yeah, I think it's just that sort of relaxed sort of thing. It's like I'm working long hours, I'm stressed, I don't feel good. Let's go a burger and fries. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it's just sort of like one thing leads to the other. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You just start sliding. It's a whole sliding over. Like you don't wake up one day and say, I'm gonna have an eating competition with myself, right? It's something you slide into over time. Your standards kind of slide, and 6 months later, you're eating stuff you wouldn't have done 6 months earlier. So it's funny how your standards kind of slide over time. And that's happened to me. And it's funny. Over a few years, I just piled on the weight, right? And you're looking good now. What's funny? This shirt didn't fit me too well a few months ago. Now it looks good again, right? But it's sort of like it's interesting because A, I did the wrong thing, but B, I've spoken to so many people who, a lot of people did worse than me. A lot of people are still stuck where I was. They can't get out of it. And I've met a lot of people who are sliding. And I sort of say to people, if you're sliding like I did, the earlier you stop is the better. And that's where you come in. You've been a great influence on me in being that sort of, hey, Ed, you sure you really want to do this? It's like, no, Sabine,
I don't think it's wrong for you to, because I know, it's not wrong. It's just that, when you've got emotional stress and, for some people it could be alcohol. For some people it could be, the gym. So for some people it could be sugar, it could be coffee, it could be, there's all those things. So, yeah, I completely see where you're going. Another fact that I found really interesting, which I cannot believe, well, I can now, but was you were in the military, and that is, I could not imagine that. But like, was that like traumatic, stressful? What was that all about?
No, it was it was a bit of everything, right? It was a bit of everything.
How long were you there?
I was about 5 years. 5 years. So about 5 years and military. Got injured. So that was sort of the end of that. But no, I had besides almost dying, right? Besides getting injured a few times, it was I had no regret for it. I think it was amazing. I loved it. I was originally planning to go career, so I had no intentions of leaving. It's just that I got medical discharge and out I go, right? So I had no intent of leaving. It's just the way life took me, right? But interestingly, with all that was actually really good, because what was interesting about that was that, and I wasn't the only one. This is darkly tragic. So the way it works in the military is the same in America, same in Australia. The military will often canvass the poorer schools to get soldiers, right? So yeah, so in other words, so for officers, you'll go to the private schools, makes sense. For sort of enlisted personnel, you'll go to the poorer schools, which public schools, which is totally me right back in the day. And their script is amazing, right? Because their script, that they know, the recruiters know their script inside out. They know exactly all the lines. Like, you have someone who's really good looking and buff, and they'll say things. So I was sitting at school feeling like a loser, right? Like, hey, my life sucks. I'm in the foster system. My grades are very meh. Things aren't going well. And you have someone come in and say, you can start your life again. We pay for everything. It's like you can. Basically, the line was, you can start again and succeed in life. And it's like, where do you sign up? So the script is very good. But what's interesting, I remember, is, and it was very sad, but when I was first in the army, it wasn't just me. Quite a few people. It was the first time myself and a lot of people would actually eat 3 meals in a day. So what's quite interesting is when you start in the army, a lot of people are actually quite malnourished, quite unhealthy. Wow. It's the first time you've actually eaten properly in years.
Wow.
So for example, I went from living on, the first time I ate steak when I was doing my basic training, I don't think I've eaten steak before. I couldn't remember when I last ate steak. It's like, I haven't eaten steak in years, right? Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wasn't the only one. So it's fascinating. So from a food and health point of view, it was a really good reset to the system. Really good reset to the system.
So was there any stress when you were in the army, or was it quite, by the sounds of it, you sound like you quite enjoyed it. It wasn't.
Well, it's stressful, and I know you say this all the time. It's stressful in a positive way. So it's positive stress. It's like, stress of succeeding, stress of starting a new life. So it's that positive stressful. Is joining the military and the AFP, Australian Future Police, highly stressful? It is, but in a positive way, in terms of, the positive creation of stress. It's a bit like, let's say you go to uni or start something new or start a new exciting relationship. It's stressful, but stressful in a lifting and positive way.
Yeah. Great. Wow.
Mm.
And so you came out of the army or the military,
Yep.
and then what was the next step? Because I know that was quite interesting. I mean, how did stress feature on the next chapter? So you've got, you've been discharged. Is that right?
So I got injured very badly. And government was great. So I had a honourable medical discharge. So basically, what it means is honourable means if you get a dishonourable discharge, that means bad. You get nothing. It's your fault. Honourable means, hey, you're out, but everything's awesome, right? So I thought I was honourable. Thank God, right? And what was really good is, and this is quite common in Australia, America, and the UK too, is if you've been in for a while and you get injured and it's honourable, quite often they pay for your uni. Like they'll pay for your university, whatever next steps is, they'll pay for university, whatever it is. So I actually went to university and they paid for it. It was fantastic. They've helped pay for a lot of that, right? So I went to Monash University, which is one of the top universities in the world. No way I could afford that on myself, but with the government, it was fine, right? So top uni, so really good run. And what was interesting is that
what did you study at uni? What was your major? What did you study?
So I did. So long story short, I did science and then ended up going into marketing and business. It was really good.
That worked out well.
Yeah. So long story, just condensing it so I don't make everyone drop off the live stream. But what was interesting, boring, a lot of it's boring. But what was interesting, the interesting part talking about stress and all that, bring it back to that, is that I got quite badly injured. And when I got out, physically I was fine, but I developed I had a lot of PTSD, which would come back to haunt me later. So what ended up happening was I ended up having a few fantastic years. Yeah, I got promoted. I was like looking after teams. So I had a really good corporate run for about 4 or 5 years. Then in about 30, a lot of the PTSD and trauma that I had started to come back to the surface, and I had big problems with anxiety, overeating. I was starting to get panic attacks. I even had the shakes at one point. I was getting really, and this happens a lot. So quite often, a lot of anyone who studied psychology, quite often, a lot of mental traumas can come back later in life and get you.
100%, yeah.
So I was earning 6 figures. I was kicking butt. I was busy looking at myself in the mirror. I was busy admiring how awesome I was. And I kind of just buried the past, just buried it and carried on. But then, I started really unraveling when I was 29, 30. So, long story short, I finished a really good work contract, but I was just, in a way, I was just too sick to go back to work. So I had the shakes, anxiety, a lot of big problems in those days, a lot of big problems.
So that you talked about, the shakes and anxiety. What about your energy levels, sleep and moods and things?
Very, very bad. So sleep was a problem. Energy level. I was very volatile in those days.
Really? I would.
Yeah, big problems, anxiety. But the shakes was a big problem. It got so bad, like the shell shock. It was always my left hand. I can't do it now, but I get the full on shakes. I was to the point I used to sit on my left hand.
Wow.
Right? So right side was okay, but my left side, I'd actually sit on my hand or I put my hand in my pocket. What about that? So not bad. So it's kind of like this sort of, I can't do it, so I don't have, it's sort of like this sort of effect, right? This sort of trembling effect.
Wow.
They're not good. No, and I used to hide it. One thing about me is I'm always good at hiding stuff, so I sort of hit it pretty well. But quite often back in those days, I'd sit on my hand. I'd be sitting on so acting all like everything's great while I'm sort of sitting on my hand, so I don't look like so I don't look ridiculous. At least in my mind, that sort of thing.
Wow. And how long did that sort of shake in and that sort of you hiding it? How long did that, do you think, take?
It took a few years because again, long story short, so what happened was so moved to Sydney, living in my car, doing the homeless veteran thing, great. But what was interesting was that
whoa. The homeless veteran thing. So you were living in let's go back. You were living in your car.
So long story short, so finished a great job in Hobart, but I was really sick from PTSD and all that. Government wouldn't help me because I earned too much money. So zero government support. And so what happened was I ended up traveling from Hobart, for those around the world. I was in Tasmania for a few years, finished a really good job. I ended up moving to Sydney, like drove to Sydney to start life again. And I started off living in my car in Sydney, right? In a beautiful place called DY Beach. So I was homeless, but homeless in style, living on DY Beach.
Love DY.
Great place, great. So I say to anyone, if you're ever going to wind up homeless, I hope you don't, but if you do, highly recommend DY. So you're going to be homeless in style. Great. So no regrets going to DY. Zero regrets go to DY. Great place, DY. Beautiful northern beaches of Sydney. It's just fantastic. Right.
So you were in your car. You were living in your car in DY.
Yeah, totally. And what happened to me was, long story short. So what happened? One of the friends that I made, she runs this health company, right? And they sell a lot of health products, right? And fitness products, health products. And she goes, Ed, I've got the Easter show coming up. You're a natural. I need you to help me sell my health products at the Easter show. And I'm like, whoa, Denise, I don't know about this, Denise. She goes, no, Ed, you have to trust me. You'll be really good at this. And I said, no. And she goes, Ed, I'll pay you $500 a day. Done. And what happened was, and she was right, and credit to Denise. So what happened was I was basically selling health products at the Easter show, including commission. I made like about $2,000 a day. So it was really good. And she goes, see, I told you, Ed. So I made her, and I did really well. So what happened was I had quite a bit of money all of a sudden, right? And so what I then did was I then decided to become a certified coach, right? And what was funny about it, it was kind of funny. I kind of enjoyed this humor. So I was living in my car and I was flying to Melbourne from Sydney to be a certified coach. So I go into Melbourne, and so basically in one sense, I had the secret homeless life, which was hilarious. And then I'm flying to Melbourne and doing all this coaching certification. It was amazing, right? So I was living this kind of dual life. And but the good news is once I got my coaching certification, I was able to actually sign up clients pretty quickly. And then that was sort of my transition out of things, which was really, really cool.
Wow.
It's good.
So you're going back to your stress levels when you were living in the van, the car. Were you stress free? Were you?
Well, actually, it was quite healing. It's actually quite low stress, right? It was actually quite low stress. It actually gave me a chance to really sort of stop and heal and all that, which while I do. Actually, stress levels were quite low. The positive stress was sort of like when I started sort of flying to Melbourne. It's sort of like, as I remember, I was creating, so I was actually flying Virgin. It was a Virgin back in those days. I think it was Virgin, but it's like a different form of it. I remember putting in my address, like in creating, I think it's my frequent flyer account, putting my address, like, I don't have one. So I just put in my old friend's address. There you go, throw that in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of, but it was funny. I was living in my car, flying to Melbourne, and everyone thought how awesome I was. And I was sort of giggling. It's like, ha, ha, ha.
It's interesting that's what you do now on a regular basis, right? It's interesting how that sort of created, I mean, by the sounds of it, correct me if I'm wrong, but that gave you some kind of freedom, like you really found your wings, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's great. It's really good because you get to help other people. So I used to be sort of before I became like a LinkedIn business networking leader, influencer, and all that, I used to be more of a coach back in the day, right? And that was really good. So it helped me take off, make money, met Lassie in my mid to late 30s, which was great. And then it's all from there. But in terms of stress though, I didn't resolve a lot of my stress. I sort of just very typical, I suppose, typical alpha male thing is sort of like stress bar humbug. Let's just focus on our work. And that's all good. Like, I'm so glad that I've focused on my work. But one thing I say to everyone is I wish I did two things. I wish I focused on my work and worked with my stress too. Like, I was very much forget about the stress, just work. And that's okay for a while, but I think I stretched that one a little bit too long to my own detriment, especially when I had all the weight problems in my early mid 40s. as you said, that was just a result of all that unresolved stress just coming to the surface. So if I dealt with that stress earlier, I wouldn't have had all those eating problems. So that's how it all sort of came together.
That's great. And so in hindsight, if you hadn't had stress, what do you think would have been different? Do you think?
I think if I resolved the stress and approached it more positively, I never would have slid. Because I never resolved the stress, it then sort of blew into an eating disorder, right? And then here we are. I'm at the end of it today, which is great. Right? But it created a lot of problems. But then the more darker, the lighter side of it is, though, it also gave me the opportunity to help a lot of people as well. Because what's interesting is that, because I sort of came out about a year ago about my eating disorder. I didn't like it, but I wrote an article on it. I had like about 50 people contacting me going, Ed, me too, thank you. Like, it's like, oh, okay. So whilst I'm not proud of what I've done and I wish I didn't do it, at least it's given me something to work with and help other people.
And so many people, I can imagine, would resonate with what you're saying. I mean,
a lot of people do worse than me. I hate to say it. A lot of our really good friends and clients, they outdid me, like, in a bad way. Like, and I can see it now. I can see when someone's sliding, and I can see when someone's slid, and they're like, "Hey, I got a real problem now. I got to do something about it." It's like, I know people who've gone on to get diabetes and have severe health disorders, like permanent. There's permanent medical complications and health disorders. So, yeah, fortunately, the good thing is, one saving grace about me is, even though I put on a lot of weight, I was still working out and exercising at the time. So a lot of people said, so it wasn't like I was super obese. I was like a wrestler in a way, right? Like a footy player more.
But I see what you're saying.
But that kept me going though. So I think because I still exercised a lot, even though I was big, I didn't get as many health complications as other people would. So that was at least some saving grace that I had.
And I think stress is, it's like a weed, right? You have to weed it. It will come back to haunt you at some point. So you said when you were sliding into that stress, what does that look like, or if for example somebody is sliding into a stressful state, and maybe I know when you're in it, you don't. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes to actually recognize it. What would you say to look out for, sort of like telltale signs of stress?
Yeah. So we're a lot of us have different vices, be it smoking, alcohol, whatever. Mine's always been food, right? Food's always been my sort of addiction, right? But let's talk food, because obviously I can talk about that as a direct end user. Is if you're sliding, right, the sooner you get a handle on it, the better, right? And I found talking about it was quite useful, such as yourself, talking about it, admitting you've got a problem, saying, hey, it's drinking, right? Not, albeit I've never really had a drinking problem, but let's say you're drinking too much, you're sliding. Instead of letting it go for 2 years and going, oh no, it's good to really stop and think, saying, I'm sliding again. Or let's say you're smoking. Let's say you picked up smoking. No, let's say you picked up smoking again, and you smoked over 5 cigarettes in a day. Ooh, that's a time to stop and think. Oh, you're vaping, vaping or whatever, right? Let's say you're getting into vaping. So, I wasn't vaping 6 months ago. Now I'm vaping 3 times a day. Do I really want to keep going this way?
Yeah. And I think,
do you want to stop now, or do you want to stop when you're vaping 40 times a day? When do you want to stop? It's kind of, you're heading in a direction. Which way do you want to steer the ship?
That kind of reflection. I mean, the thing is, it's quite hard sometimes if you haven't got, you're lucky you're married with kids, but if you haven't got a support team or somebody,
it's very hard.
because you've got to do it by yourself, right? Unless you have a great workplace or you have great friends who can say, okay, is this the right way you're going, to sort of help.
Just reacting to that, on YouTube, there's heaps of cool video. Even Jordan Peterson, right, showing the right way. Even Jordan Peterson himself has got fantastic videos on addictions, right? He talks about this. If you're a bit of a right winger like me and you love Elon Musk and Donald Trump, then Jordan Peterson's for you, right? But what I mean is that I found YouTube has some really good, has a lot of really good content on there that you can put in. And different people talking about it from different viewpoints.
Yeah, and something hits. So in terms of tools and habits, you mentioned that exercise was something that really helped you. What other sort of, do you have any habits or that you can sort of like that you cultivate every single day to keep you on track or to keep you from sliding into that back into that? Because what
Well,
you
one of
do,
the great things, and you help, and it was like yourself and a few other characters helped set me up with some. The biggest thing I've ever done, and now I'm not a health professional, and I've referred a lot of people to you, Sabina. I'm not a health professional, but I've suggested this to all other people. It's been fantastic. The biggest thing I've ever done is intermittent fasting. It's amazing. I've suggested it to a lot of other people. They've went off and got amazing results. But basically, intermittent fast. Out of everything I've done,
that's the best.
it's what I'm doing now, right? It's what I'm doing now to get all healthy again. So it's just in fact, I should shut up. You're the one who told me to do it. Tell us what intermittent fasting is, Sabina. I shouldn't be telling this. This is your domain.
Well, no, I mean, there's lots of different types of fasting, and so it depends. I mean, you could be on the the 5-2, or you could be fasting for several hours and then just having a small window of eating. I don't know what you want, but remember, this is all about you, Edward. This is all about you.
What I do is like basically this is what's worked well for me. This is what's helped me really not just, and I just want to jump in. It's not just slimming down. It's helped me feel healthy, feel great. So I just want to say, I know I'm talking about weight and shit, but I just want to be clear. There's much broader than this. So the thing that I love is you only eat between 12 and 8. So basically lunch, do not eat after 8. So basically, yeah, I find if I just eat between 12 and 8, get really healthy. You feel good, and you slim down in a way. You slim down without trying. I know you're trying, but it kind of like slim down without trying. You don't have that thing. That's been my take, Sabina.
And I know you walk a lot, 20,000 steps a day. Does that contribute as well? That must contribute to your stress levels as well.
So it's been so I don't go to the gym anymore. I stopped going to the gym. So what I like to do is I usually do at least 10. Quite a few days I do 20,000 steps a day. My minimum is at least 10,000 steps a day. Right, on average, I do at least 10,000 a day. Quite often I'll do 20,000. So I do a lot of steps, no gym, and I like to do the intermittent fasting. That's a good thing as well. If you do, let's say, exercise plus intermittent fasting, it works super quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So in a way, I'm sort of adding different methods to each other. So on one front, I'm doing really good exercise, and I'm also doing intermittent fasting. Of course, when you stick them together, you get healthy real quick.
And in terms of, and this might not be you, I know we've gone over time a little bit. I don't want to value your time, but I mean, sort of meditation or mindfulness or anything like that, making sure that you're putting your own oxygen mask on first, and boundaries, especially in mental health. Is there something, I think I notice a lot of people that because we are often working from home, we struggle with boundaries, right? Around we don't have the workplace. We can take our laptop home, take our phone.
Crazy work.
We're on all the time unless we implement really clear boundaries. What do you have around that helps you sort of stay really on form?
Well, a few things I've done lately, and and it's probably good me disclosing this. I got really I'm all right now, getting better now. But I told this, but about 2-3 weeks ago, I hit the wall emotionally, just emotional burnout. About 2-3 weeks ago, and I was not, and I knew how I sort of and. It's been years of running on empty, sort of caught up with me a few weeks ago, right? Years of running on empty, right? It's like, and I knew it was coming. I knew I've been going too hard. I'm very well aware of that. But eventually, and if anything, I'm surprised it lasted this long. But a few weeks ago, my body just said, no, Ed, we've had enough, right? My body was just done.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming, right? I knew it was coming. But the good news is I'm in a position where I can deal with it. So some of the things that I've really done is, unless I'm going to turn off the phone 10 o'clock at night. So once 10 o'clock at night, I found keeping the phone on at night terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah. So I love, if I can, turn off that phone 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at least, but just turn off the phone.
10 o'clock. It should be 8 o'clock. It should be 7 o'clock.
That's not going to happen, right? 10 o'clock's fine. It's not going to happen, right? 10 o'clock, right? So turn off the phone at 10 if I can, right? Unless I got to leave it on to catch an early. But if I don't need to wake up in the morning, turn my phone off. right?
You can have you do know that there's these things, they're called alarms, they're analogs. You can buy them from IKEA, about $5. I might buy you one for Christmas. And you don't need your phone. You can actually put your phone, wait for it, listen, this is new. You can put your phone out of your room, and then this alarm goes off. It's just one battery, AA battery.
I'll have the phone out of the room. I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to do that.
Honestly, it's a game changer.
I'm going to do it tonight.
You should.
Yeah. So I find turning off the phone fantastic, right? Turning off the phone, and also setting boundaries with people as well is very important. So I find especially and I'm sure the same in our line of work, is depending on wherever we are, is there'll be people. So what I find is boundaries are very important. So especially for me now. So when my business was a lot smaller, boundaries weren't that important. Now the business is bigger, boundaries are very important. So sort of keeping distance with negative situations and negative people, sort of like, that's very, very important. So I've been doing a lot more of that.
Yeah, I think we think of stress. So, we forget that stress is food, and stress is what's around us, but people as well. And having those boundaries around what people invade your space, because it's your space. Yes, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I've learned so much about you again. And if you ever fancy, or if you've ever got time to come and jump on and tell us some more of what you're doing, like, I'd love to. I know that you've got a lot of followers around the world. I'd love to hear what you do. And I think you help so many people, help them with their business. So yeah, it's just it's good to hear from you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
While I've got you, Sabina, can I ask you, what do you think of my health transformation in terms of the intermittent fasting, more steps, turning off the phone? Any other tips you'd like to add to that? Because I'm sure not just me, a lot of people want to know what you're thinking. Because you're a health. You look like you look like an athlete, and it's pretty cool.
Well, I won't go that far, but my six pack is coming on, I must say.
You're an athlete. You look like a marathon runner or something. Is the best way to put it.
I've dropped 5 kilos over Ramadan, which was quite nice.
Wow. Where'd you lose those 5 kilos? Like, that's a good. Where? I don't know. It's like, where the hell?
You can now see my abs. So for me, I have a program called the Performance Blueprint, and that's what I basically use myself. And I do it because I've had my mental health challenges, right? I'm really sensitive to stress. And
In what way? In what way, Sabina?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I pick it up. So if my husband's stressed, I pick it up. I don't know if that's a normal thing. If there's, people around me that are stressed, and this comes back to leaders, right? And I know that, like, the statistics is something like 70% of stress is actually from the leadership. So the people down, underneath is not, they actually don't feel that stress. But when you've got somebody who's in a higher position, who's going around and they're really stressed, they're carrying their own baggage, limiting beliefs, their own programming, and, it could be PTSD, their own trauma, they don't have the tools to deal with it, then they, by default, and not necessarily intentionally, but they push it onto the people that are below them. So for me, so that's what I do with the Performance Blueprint, and a big part of that is stress management. So I think some really simple tools is boundaries. I think that's one of the biggest ones. So your brain in the morning when you first wake up is in something called the alpha zone, and that is what I do hypnosis. What hypnosis use to actually reprogram your brain. So if, for example, you are waking up in the morning and you're in alpha zone, which you will be, and you're in that period for about 20 to 30 minutes, your brain is in that foggy stage, and you might feel it like, your brain doesn't work properly, you're just sort of half asleep. That's actually hypnosis. And the majority of people, what they do is they might pick up their phone or start looking at their calendar, or and that's it. They think, well, they're going to.
I go straight on X and watch Elon Musk, Donald Trump stuff. There we go.
But what happens is you're programming, you're hypnotizing yourself to whatever it is.
So when my brain's in alpha state, I'm opening it up to Twitter with like right-wing content. That explains a lot, actually, Sabina. There you go.
Try it, Ed. It's serious.
I'll do some left-wing content, see what happens. I'll go hug a tree, or
maybe.
I'll go gender non-binary. You never know.
But my point is that, you know, if you are wanting to reduce your stress, right?
Don't jump on X first thing in the morning and look at Elon Musk content.
Don't jump on the stock exchange. Don't jump on anything that has a propensity to actually cause you stress and increase your cortisol levels, because otherwise you're going to be, it primes your body and your mind for the day. So having boundaries. Basically, don't open your phone until you've been awake. You know, don't look at your emails until you've been awake at least an hour, so that you're out of that sort of that precious period.
Just another thing to react to as well. I've been doing this a little bit as well. Again, this is just I love ripping off Sabina's stuff and pretending it's my idea. There we go. No, I don't
think you're
but another thing you said to me, and I want to say this as well, is I can't remember the time frame. I might be wrong on the time frame, but you said what you should do, Ed, is turn off your phone like half an hour a day if you can. And I find it's really relaxing. So if you if I have client work, it's great. But let's say I've got no meetings and I've just done a post. Sometimes I'll just turn off my phone for half an hour or even an hour. Good chance to chill, because what I find is when your phone's off and people try and call you or they WhatsApp you, they know that your phone's off and they leave you alone. So I find sometimes if I'm feeling like worn out, sometimes I just turn off the phone for half an hour and chill out. And then I feel a million times better when I come back in. And that was your idea. I can't remember if you said half an hour, but you made that suggestion.
You could even do it, you know, and I think even better is do it at the end of the day as well, right? So actually turn it off. So if you're, you know, like have, you know, you can do on the settings on an iPhone, you can have do not disturb, or, you know, just office hours. Have office hours for your calls, right? So coaching clients, you are training your clients as much as what yes, they might subscribe to you and you have an excellent program. I must say I've been part of it for a long time and it has helped me and my business so much. Definitely recommend it. But what I would say is that for anybody who's coaching, you need to also educate your clients. It's not their fault. If you've told them that by picking up the phone all the time that you're on demand, it's not their fault that they expect you to be on demand. So educate them around that and that creates a ripple effect, because they will do it to their own clients. Everybody needs to have their own boundaries. So having boundaries around that. So I would say is, yes, do it for in the day, but also is turn that phone off at 6 o'clock and that's it, or whatever. I know you have 8 o'clock Zooms, but even 9 o'clock for you, turn it off. And anyway.
It feels good. I think great. But I gotta say, thanks for your influence, Sabina. It's been really good. And there you go. I love the background. I love the leaf background. I think it's very you. Is this leaf background very you?
Well, the leaf background. So your body and mind respond to something. You take the piss. Something called fractals, right? So basically, fractals are oblongal, repetitive shapes in nature. And what they do is they actually calm your brain down. So your brain waves will calm down. So I thought by us doing this, we can actually help people if they're watching this to actually calm down. But you talk about Elon Musk and what's his face?
And Trump and right-wing content and X.
That rallies me up. But that's another conversation for another day.
Oh, there we go. So crazy, but I just got to say big thank you, Sabina, and thank you for interviewing me. It's kind of weird for me. It feels different being on the receiving end. It feels good actually when I'm actually the one being interviewed, not the other way around. Feels good.
Yeah, you should do it more often. I think
you should.
But I think your story is very. I know I met you several years ago actually, and I never knew your story. And when I found out what the history and what you've been through and your experiences, that makes me have even more respect for you and what you do, and you and your wife, and so. I think you should definitely be getting out there. You're a very, very interesting character, Ed. I find you very interesting. I love that story. Some of the stories you told me about being a foster kid and on the streets and stuff. It's just like, mind blowing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've done so well for yourself. You know, you're doing so well, despite what's been on, you know, your journey. So anyway, yeah, I could talk about this forever, but I won't.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sabina, and just to our wonderful friends and followers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you haven't connected with Sabina, please do. She's a great friend of ours. Runs a lot of has clients all across Australia. Runs a lot of great events. And Sabina, thanks for all your encouragement. It's been absolutely honoured being interviewed by you.
And if I can just say, and I don't want to get too geeky, but if you are struggling with stress, just doing something called the physiological sigh. I think Andrew Huberman has made it quite famous. But you're basically breathing in through your nose and topping up and then breathing out. That'll help you relieve some stress, or just at least take it down a few decibels. So hope it serves you, and nice to see you, Edward.
Pleasure. Well, thank you, everyone. Stay awesome. Subscribe to Sabina, and make sure you smash that like, share, and comment. Sabina, keep up your great work. You are an inspiration.
Back at you.
Stay awesome, friends.